Hello, everyone. Angie again. Today with some non-darktide content, though we're still in that Warhammer universe. Uh, just recently was exposed to the news of Space Marine 2 coming out. Now, I don't know how this game evaded my notice until this point. It seems like the YouTube algorithm has not been doing its job. Now that I've finally clicked on a few videos of it, now it's showing up. But you'd think for all the Darktide content that I consume and produce that they'd be vomiting this stuff at me. But this is this is as a single player, a co-op horde shooter, and a PvP arena based Warhammer game where you're playing as obviously a Space Marine too. Um, we're going to be playing a little bit differently than we do in Darktide. We are absolutely unstoppable killing machines of the Imperium of Man, and instead of Darktide's four classes that have sort of a talent tree, this game starts with six classes. Imagine that. And it also looks like it's releasing fully finished, which is something that's shocking to me. Instead of the allies of Nurgle, we're going to be fighting Tyranids, basically more intelligent Zerg. If you are not a Warhammer aficionado, which I am not either, no shame in that. And today I want to look at all six of the classes that are going to be available on launch. This is in part to help you decide on a class and also to expose you to what the game might have to offer, but also to talk through it for myself and justify my own choices. I think for certain I'm going to go with one of the melee classes because I just love melee. That's one of the reasons I love Darktide and Vermintide so much. But there's six classes to choose from, and all of them can be built a number of different ways. Before I get started, I do want to highly recommend go check out these guys' video, 2 Angry Gamers TV, Space Marine 2, every class, perk, and weapon. They do a great job of you don't even have to have the audio, but they show every weapon. They hover over each weapon in each class, and they hover over every talent in the talent tree for each class long enough for you to pause the video and take a check at it. So I took about an hour to do that and get some theory crafting in my brain about like how I want to build a certain class, and it was really, really interesting. I'm one of those people that likes to ruminate on that outside of actually playing the game. But with that being said, let's take a look at the first class, which is the tactical. Now, the tactical is a jack of all trades. He has the largest array of weapons available to him, and his ability is the Auspex scan. It throws out this little green globe that I think he's going to throw right here. Yep. It highlights enemies in its radius and makes them take more damage, or debuffs them, or it buffs your attacks, depending on your choices in the talent tree. And then you can see here he has 7 range weapons available, and each of these weapons, they have their own modifiers that you can choose. They have their own talent trees. So one of the things I want to point out about this game's customization is that the talent trees for the class itself, they are about as effective as the talents are in Vermintide, where you might get an Vermintide, Darktide, and in Vermintide, where you might get an extra charge for an ability, or it might lower your cooldown by like 15% or something. Not crazy, but with that combined with a specific selection of weapons, you can really tailor a build around that. And it seems like there's an upgrade tree to the weapons as well as your characters, which is really cool. We love progression like that, and we love customization because it makes specializing more fun. So that is the look, and I'm not going to bother you to make you watch every single weapon while they sit here and go through them. But yeah, that's the brief rundown on tactical. I think they're going to be really great at rounding out a team, because if you only have 2 other members on a team when you're playing in co-op, it's a 3-member co-op, and you might have 2 melee characters and need someone who brings heavy range damage. It might be good to bring the tactical, because the tactical can not only provide whatever you need in terms of weaponry, but also they can augment the damage their enemy or their allies do by using the Auspex scan. So they kind of seem like a jack of all trades support class. Anyway, on to our second class, which is a class I'm very interested in, the Assault, and you can already see why I'm interested in it. Here's the Thunderhammer. They also have access to the Chainsword and the Power Fist, and they are a heavy-hitting sort of brawler who's going to get into the fray of things and slam the hammer down. And I'm certain they'll show it here in a second, but their special ability is the Jetpack. The jetpack allows you to burst left and right to evade enemy attacks, but it also allows you to jet up in the air and then bring the hammer crashing down, or the power fist, or whatever you might be using, just like this. Seems really, really effective and really awesome looking is probably the most important part of it. They have some things in their talent tree that allows you to get your charge on the jetpack back much quicker. You can see the jetpack is about a quarter charged after his cooldown there. So it is a little bit slower charging up. You don't get to use it all the time, but it's a very effective tool. And there's also some stuff over here on the talent tree that they showed off that allows you to leave fire trails in your wake or damage enemies when you blast off. So if you're playing really well, you can get your charge back faster by perfect parrying and killing enemies, and that's going to mean that you are doing a lot more jetpack damage. Anyway, going on to the third class, another class I'm interested in, but a little bit less than Assault maybe. This is the Vanguard. Although I kind of want to, I mean, I'm certain these are all from like Warhammer lore, but I would call the Vanguard a skirmisher instead. He prioritizes light melee and light range weapons and gets in enemies' faces using his grappling hook and stabs them on up. Basically, he gets damage reduction from a few different talents by being in constant melee engagement like that. He seems to want to use that grappling hook to really stick to enemies. He's not going to let them get a second's breath. He's going to be all over them, stabbing, ripping, and stabbing. And so he's only got a couple weapons, I think 5 weapons total in his kit to choose from, but there's customizations underneath them. So it's not, there's actually a lot more variety than just 5 weapons, seems like, on the surface. And you can see only 2 melee weapons to choose from. But he's got a whole talent tree that allows you to use your kicks and grappling line in different effective ways. So yeah, if you want to be zipping around the map, the Vanguard might be for you. Then the Bulwark. The Bulwark is the tankiest class. He's the boy with the shield. And his shield can obviously like deflect enemies like that. It can also be used to deflect enemy range damage, and like basically he has thorns on a couple of his abilities where when you're hit by an attack or block an attack perfectly, it deals the damage to enemies around you. So that could be really good. He might be really good at dealing with lots of small enemies like this. As you see there, he has the Battle Standard as his ability, which deals damage to enemies around it, buffs your allies, debuffs the enemies, whatever you need it to do. There's lots of things in the talent tree for that. And he's wielding the Power Sword here to cut up these little baby Tyranids. So I think he's a really cool looking character. Just an absolute slab of meat. Has a ton of defensive abilities in his kit. And if you wanted to play he's kind of like a mix between a brawler and a support, because a lot of his abilities, when he's blocking enemies, when he's shocking enemies, which is another thing he as a class can do, it makes them take more damage. So he's opening his allies up to do more damage to targets by by keeping them hit with status effects. So he's like a tank / support in that regard. Going on to a very offensive class, the Sniper. Offensive to me because they're using a range weapon. Blah. No, but the Sniper is, what do you think? He's a sniper. But he also has cooked into his kit something really interesting, which is he can go invisible, just like some of our friends can in Darktide and Vermintide. And his invisibility actually is really long. I'm sure they'll show it here in a second, but you can do just the same things you would in Darktide. You can run up and help allies up, which is pretty cool. There's also seems to be a potential for a melee-based build for this class, where when you are doing dodges, perfectly timed dodges from enemies, you recloak for 5 seconds, which means you could like chain that bad boy and be like incredibly dodgy in melee and just get like a lot of work done without taking any damage yourself. But they also have the same perks you might imagine from some of the infiltrator classes in Darktide, which is when you come out of stealth, that first bullet hits like a fucking truck. So you might be able to stealth and get into a better position and then pick a high value target and then proceed sniping from there. Then this is the last class here, the Heavy. The Heavy is, heavy weapons guy. He's got the biggest possible weapons. He's got the melt-a-gun. He's got the heavy plasma incinerator. And then the heavy bolter. Like, yeah, basically like the biggest possible fuck off weapons that you can carry. He's the one who has them. And to augment that, his ability is the Iron Halo. So you can, oh, let's actually just show that a little bit there because this is very satisfying. I mean, look at those effects. That looks amazing. This is the Iron Halo. He has like a front facing dome shield. And this thing is basically like the little bubble shield thing from Halo 3. The deployable one, not the full dome one. It was so annoying. Now, this little Iron Halo thing, it can actually burn enemies that are near it, or it can recharge the shields or the toughness of allies that are near it as well. There's a lot of different ways you can customize every ability in this game. And I think that's really cool because you don't necessarily know how someone's going to be playing with a different ability. I think that's something that maybe darktide could work on, is like more modifications to how the abilities play. I know that there is some modification to how the abilities play in the current game, but it's like pretty well established, like which one's the best one to choose at this point. Anyway, let's not get into darktide stuff. This is a game that I'm very excited about. Let me know in the comments if you're excited about it too. I'd love to play it with some of y'all. I'm definitely going to be making videos on this game, maybe even streaming it. But it looks really cool. I'm excited for it. I can't wait to absolutely decimate some stuff in melee combat. And go check these guys' video out. I'll recommend it again. I'll put it in the description of the video. Anyway, guys, thank you very much for watching. Like and subscribe if you haven't, and I'll see you next time.